We are still in Mobile, dodging the soggy weather, but at least it's not a hurricane, which is not unheard of here. So dress for the weather, but ladies, leave your stilettos at home.
At some undetermined time, a woman was walking along the sidewalk and got her heel stuck in a grate. And to prevent any further injuries from happening, it is now unlawful to wear shoes that are too high or too pointy. I'm not sure who is enforcing that, but it's a fun fact all the same. Fortunately, you won't have any trouble wandering around the Innova Arts gallery, unless you count being distracted by too many beautiful things to see. On any given day, you might see Daniel Day sitting by the window painting in the lovely natural light, inspired by his lifelong interest in both architecture and street lamps. Or you might hear the torch throwing flame in the workshop, where Eric Boone is creating his labor-intensive, labor of love bronze sculptures. Sometimes he doesn't even know what it's going to be until it's finished.
So Eric, I'm walking by the gallery and I see this beautiful piece in the window. And I'm thinking, I wonder how they make that. Come to find out, you are the master who makes things like this.
No one other than me. So bronze sculptures, not cast, pretty rare.
Really? So tell me why.
I guess just the history of bronze. It's easier to make a model out of clay or plaster and then turn it into bronze, via casting method. Whereas I learned from my dad, and we just start with bronze and more bronze and more bronze, and we actually sculpt in bronze.
Wow. Well, it's a very heavy piece. So is it solid bronze?
Not quite. So
Okay.
that was one of my earlier pieces. I didn't get so good at putting the skin on the outside. So yes, it's very heavy, but they're not solid.
Okay.
You can
Because
see
you
a
wouldn't be
little
able to
bit of
pick it
that in
up,
here.
right?
Yeah, it'd be, yes, yeah.
So this piece is one of yours, and this is a little bit more the technique that you're using now.
This
Right?
is the same technique
It's
as
the
this.
same technique.
Yeah, I only use
Wow,
one
look-
technique.
Look quite different.
Yeah.
So tell me what the difference is.
Just kind of how I melt it all together at the end. So I sort of build a frame, get the shape right, then I put the metal next to each other, and then I melt it all together as one piece. So that there, most of these done sort of flat because I can flip it over. Whereas this one here, I had to do vertically, horizontally, and upside down.
You're standing on your head to
But
do
it's
some
all
of
the
it.
same approach. And Casey Downing Jr., kind of my mentor here, he likes these things.
What is this wire?
So
What
this
is
is
it?
what I start with.
So you build this shape, and are you thinking that it's going to be something, or are you just creating as you go and it's going to take shape, and sometimes you're surprised at the end?
Definitely the latter. So I kind of do two different pieces I call objects like this. I mean, I know what that looks like, or a cube or a pyramid. You can't help but know what that looks like. And I
Right.
do that more for the technical challenge when I got it started. Plus, they're kind of fun. Pieces like these, though, I don't know what they're going to look like.
Really?
I know it's going to be a tree and I have a general idea, but the way the art comes to me is just next. I know how to get started and I know what to do next. I never think beyond that. And I do next. And when I don't know what to do next, I take a break. And when it comes to me, I start again. And
So
then
what-
it tells me when it's done.
So what do you think is the most interesting piece that you've done that you were surprised at the end?
That's a really good question. I'd have to say this piece I did called The Wave. So I tried to do all my pieces balanced too, which is really strange. Like you'll see this here. They all just stand up perfect.
Oh my. Oh, maybe.
As long as we don't touch
Okay.
it. But we
try
saw
not
the
to hit
pieces
it.
in the back too, and you'll see that they have some really kind of weird center of gravity pieces. So The Wave was a piece where I wanted to make it where it was looked like the water was crashing down, but I also wanted to make the piece look like it was going to fall on you.
Oh.
And that one
Okay.
came out very surprising. Not so much because of the shape, but because of the feeling that it got. So these pieces here are all about emotions. So this
So
was
what is your emotion then?
it started with a little yell. And I
A
think,
yell?
and I think it was like the inner me kind of at the bottom of a well, and I heard it for years yelling, and it kind of got a little louder as it got towards the top, and when it popped out, it was just a big yell.
Okay.
And that was my first piece, was I wanted to make a yell, and I didn't know what to do with it. It ended up going on a guy. So I built a man, I call him the Oscar, yelling Oscar. He looks a lot like an Oscar. So this was supposed to be a tree full of yells.
Okay. So where are the yells?
And it kind of morphs, but you see them on the end here. All of these little pieces here on the ends are all sort of speaking now. But that's one of the ones where it came out different than what I thought.
So how long does it take to become like the master that you are?
I'll let you know when I get there. So, I mean, I learn new stuff every day. Yeah. Every day. So, I mean, I did a lot of this when I was younger. My dad was an artist. I mean, he was one of those guys where you give him something and he just gives it back to you more beautiful. No matter whether it was glass or clay or a picture or this or any sort of metal art, and he ended up being a jeweler. So he taught me all these things. I never had any vision about anything. And I thought the way that it worked, and I think it works differently for everybody, is I thought he saw something and then he created it. And that's not the way my stuff works. I don't really see anything. I just see a start and I see an idea or an emotion or a thought. And once I sort of let myself fall into that, then I could start to create things like this.
So did you have a time in your life where you went and did something else and then came back to art? Or was this, have you just been doing this full time?
I just started doing this about 1.5 years ago.
Did you really?
Yeah. My dad died in 2004. He sent me some tanks and a torch, and I broke them out a couple years ago. January 31st, 2023 was when I made my first piece.
Okay.
And I hadn't touched a torch since I was probably 18, 17 when I was still at home.
So you go a little crazy with the torch?
So, and he taught me well, you know, I remembered everything. It's very dangerous. But yeah, he taught me how the right way to do it. Safety is really important. You can't be afraid of the flame. I mean, if anybody's ever played baseball, if you're afraid of the ball, you're not going to make it. But the ball really hurts when it hits. And if you burn yourself, it'll go right through your hand. Yeah.
Okay. Flame, here we come.
A little gem tucked away in Midtown Mobile, the mission of Innova Arts is to connect local artists with patrons of the arts, which is just a fancy way of saying if you love one-of-a-kind jewelry, pottery, paintings, wearable art, and more, you will find it here.
From the USS Alabama to the Azalea Trail in the spring, to the Carnival Museum, to the diverse works at Innova Arts, to the beauty of the Gulf Coast, there is plenty to see and do all year round in Mobile. I'm Ms. World Traveler Kerry Damiano, reminding you to travel safe, shop smart, dress well, and be grateful for every day.